You could do that easy.
We're here in the home of William Dewey Stott Sr., and we're just having a little chit-chat information with old times. And young Dewey here is our guest of honor, and some questions are being asked of Dewey about the old times and a little bit of his background. And it's being done here by his daughter, Karen's here, and this is Larry Kikoski doing a little bit of talking. So Larry's going to be quiet and turn this over here to Caroline. Caroline, it's all yours.
It's my pleasure to be here today when we're interviewing Daddy for this keepsake video and for the historical value it might have. Daddy, tell me how you got your name, Dewey Stott. Where did the Dewey come from?
Admiral Dewey.
Admiral had been born. Yeah, you were too young to remember. You were born in Brisbane,
Yeah.
and you were one of a family that had.
7.
Okay. You had 3 brothers. What were their names?
Hayden and Paul. What was the other one here?
Don't forget yourself. And the sisters were Grace and Verna.
And Caroline.
And Elizabeth. We won't want to forget Elizabeth.
That's right.
Now, Caroline, she's your sister that you chose to name me for, okay? I was named after your Caroline, your sister,
Yeah.
and my sister, Margaret Louise, was named after your mother. So you kept it all in the family. That was pretty nice. So you went to school in Brisbane in a 2-story schoolhouse
Yes.
that was pretty fancy. You had a janitor.
Yes, right.
And where did he live?
Right back of the schoolhouse, one block.
I wonder if you remember his name.
Joe Higgins.
Joe Higgins. And he did a pretty good job being a janitor?
Wonderful.
Kept you nice and warm and cozy in school?
He kept this thing going good.
And you had a couple teachers you remember.
Yeah. Shirley Arnold's daughter was one.
Charlie Arnold's daughter,
Yeah.
Miss Arnold. Remember her well. And you said Nell Sweeney Hayes taught over there too? Nell Sweeney Hayes was a teacher there too?
Yeah, but she was up in the...
Second floor.
Yeah.
Second floor. Okay, what were some of your interests when you were younger?
Oh, yes.
What color horses did he have?
All white horses.
Why white?
Easier to keep clean.
How is that?
That's the way he's figured it out.
And easier than a dark horse,
Yep.
the white horse.
The dark horse would show that they had dandruff on the hair, and the white horse didn't.
Okay.
Had his own teams, his own horses. He did hauling for anybody wanted a load of coal. He would haul them that load of coal and shovel it out of the wagon into the coal shed. And they all practically using coal then, you know.
What was that you told me about the coal chute? That was a little difficulty getting the coal into the house?
Yes.
Tell me.
He had a coal shed built and designed it the way he wanted it. And at the sidewalk where he could back in, the other side where the house was, he had the floor in the shed was a slope store.
Sloped floor in the shed.
Yeah, it was level. You didn't have to go in the shed to get the coal. And he had a box built on the outside of the shed, and the coal was run right down in this box. And he'd take the coal bucket out there and set it on the ground and shovel it into the coal bucket.
He was a pretty smart man, wasn't he?
He damn right he was smart.
Hack or Surrey.
And it was pretty nice. And it had side seats in it. And I think it would hold either 10 or 12.
They had the dances out at the pavilion.
They had to dance without
Is that in Sandburn?
Locust Grove.
Locust Grove?
Yeah, it's up in Brisbane there.
Okay.
They had a regular dance hall there. And the churches had all their big times there. And the park was lots of trees in it, you know. And it was nice.
I bet they were locust trees.
Yes, they were.
Okay. And so then he was kind of like a fancy bus ride out to the pavilion.
How's that again?
He was almost like a fancy bus ride for them to go out to the pavilion.
Oh, yeah.
And that would be through a dirt road in the woods?
Dirt road and horses drawn.
And this was once a week?
Oh, no. No, it didn't have that on it. This is Sunday school picnic. It had every Wednesday, twice a year.
But when they had the dances out there, when they went dancing?
Well, and it would, there's a hotel right in the Brisbane, brick hotel, it's not there anymore. And they hauled people from there up to the dance hall. And they go up to the dance hall. And then they want to run a taxi back and forth. They want to come down, I'd bring them down, 10 cents. And then when they get down to the hotel, get a few shots, and they want to go back.
A few shots of what?
Liquor.
Oh, a little snooze there, huh? So it was 10 cents for a ride from Brisbane out to Locust Grove. Was that round trip or one way? You had to pay another dime to get back.
Yep.
Oh, gee. And he would use his white horses to drive this surrey with the fringe on top,
Yep.
which they called a hack.
Yep.
And the seats were on the sides as well as...
Side seats.
Okay. And did you say that would be like 10 would ride in the hack or 12?
Hmm?
Would 10 people ride or 12 or more?
I think it'd be about 10.
10 or 12?
Wouldn't be more than 10.
Well, now, your dad was a very pleasant man,
Oh, yeah.
and you once told me that when he laughed, he had such a hearty laugh,
Yeah.
they would say it sounded like thunder over in Brisbane.
Yeah.
You could hear it all over.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a pretty hearty laugher.
Now, your life revolved around the horses because your dad was a teamster.
Oh, yeah. And then he got a team of horses from my brother. And they had 2 horse teams. All coal, all props. The coal mines are running in, and they all use timber, coal props, and crossbars, and they hold the roof up. And they had to bring it out on the little rails, the railroad track.
Did you ever tie the horses' tails fancy or
Yes,
put ribbon through them or something?
yes.
You did that?
Yeah, he used to braid them in the knitting. What do you call it? Plait.
Plait? Braid?
Plait. He used to plait the horse's tail, put a ribbon in,
Put a ribbon in it.
and
What color ribbon?
red.
Red ribbon on a white horse. That's
Yeah.
pretty fancy. Who plaited the tail?
I did.
You did.
Yeah.
You know how to plait it. Okay, that sounds all right. Now, when you were little, you went to Brisbane School, and you went to 4th grade, and you had to go to work because of the large family,
Yeah.
and you used to, your mother didn't want you to go down in the mines.
No, so many of them got hurt in the mine and killed. And my brother wouldn't leave us go in the mine. And that's the reason we got live longer, you know. And the ones that didn't get killed got hurt bad.
It was pretty dangerous in the mines.
Oh, yeah, it's awful bad.
Now, you told me that you feel that the reason you have lived to be 95 years old is because your mother was so good about whenever you got wet clothes on, she would take them off right away so you would not have wet clothes.
That's right.
And so you feel that was good for your health.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you used to go out to the, where the clay was with your,
Yes.
what did you do when you rode the pony out there? You had a pony named Mabel,
Yep.
okay? And what did you do when you rode the pony out to the sandburn?
Well, uncovering clay by hand.
Was that a tough job?
Well, you think it's a pick and shovel.
And how, would you just be fourth grade then? 10 years,
Well,
Not
I
quite
was
ten.
more in fourth grade then.
were you? Okay, well, you're still pretty young though. Now, didn't you tell me that after you worked all day on that clay, that you were so tired as a young boy that the Mabel, the pony, rode you home, and when you got home, your mother had to wake you to lift you off the pony?
Yeah, no, I was in the cart.
Oh, in the cart you fell asleep?
Yeah,
Okay, but the pony brought you home. She knew the way back.
yeah, pass the other cars, wagons and buggies. Turn out further and pass them. I would sleep in them.
Just, just like a remote control.
Yeah, she know right where to go.
Okay, so then when you got home, your mother lifted you out of the cart,
No, she'd come up and waken me.
wakened you.
She would lift me out so I could get out.
Okay, but you were sound asleep because you were tired from working.
Yeah,
What time in the morning would you start?
7,
7 in the morning, and how late did you work?
6.
6, from 7 in the morning till 6 at night. That was a long day for a young boy.
It was 10 hours. Wasn't it?
Well, it was a long time, almost, yeah. Okay, did you have any opportunity to have any hobbies, or were you busy taking care of the horses and the team?
Used to ice skate.
Was that Brisbane Dam where you
Yeah.
ice skated?
Yeah.
Did you have regular ice skates, or did you make something to use?
My dad bought the ice.
Did the rest of your family ice skate with you? Did your other brothers and sisters go ice skating?
Not as much as I did.
You liked it.
Yeah.
When did you ice skate on the weekends? When did you go ice skating on the weekends?
Oh, anytime you had free time, you go get your ice skates and take a skate.
Okay, well, you were close to the Brisbane Dam,
Oh yeah, you stayed from the back porch.
and people walked a lot when they wanted to go anywhere back in
Yeah,
the
they
18...
walked from Houtzdale to Brisbane, and from Brisbane to Houtzdale. They didn't have all these fancy buggies to ride.
Was it pretty expensive for your dad to keep the buggy and the horses?
Oh no,
No, he did it himself.
yeah.
And your brother Aiden had a riding academy down the Pocono Mountains.
Yeah.
He also stayed, had an interest in the horses.
Oh yes.
Now you have a plate in your leg
Yeah.
from a horse. How did that happen?
I was driving a team of horses, and I was living up there in Brisbane, where the old church used to be, and it was downhill down the road, and I tied 2 wagons together.
Why did you do that? Why did you tie 2 wagons together?
Well, I wanted to get 2 wagons down there so we could use them. And I tied the one back of the other one. And when I went down this hill, the one in the back pushed so fast, it pushed it over. And when it was going over, I jumped out, and I jumped in a little hole, and my foot hit that hole and broke my ankle, both sides of the ankle. And Doc Williams come over to set it, and he said, "I don't know what's wrong." He said, "I set it up, it falls out. Set it up the other way, it falls out." The ankle was broken right through. So they didn't take me to the hospital quick enough before the swelling got going. And then I had to lay in the hospital with up like that on it for a long time. When they did operate, wait for the swelling to get off.
And the reason Dr. Williams couldn't set it was because there was no bone to set. It was shattered,
No, just both sides of the ankle was broken.
both sides. So they put the plate in.
Yeah, the plate's right in here, and there's two bones there. A little plate, a little bone was broken.
And you still have the plate in your leg today.
Yeah,
It's a little cold when it's wintertime.
don't notice it.
Don't even notice it. It was pretty modern, wasn't it, back then, to get a plate put in there?
Yes, it was
Go
Dr.
on.
Henderson in Phillipsburg.
Dr. Henderson at the Phillipsburg Hospital.
Yeah.
So there was a little delay there. That's why you got swelling.
Yeah, and he lay there with it up in the air for so long to get the swelling down so he could operate on it.
Okay. Anything else on it? Daddy, there was a team that you drove, and it was a very peppy group of horses.
Yeah.
And I understand when you came down Main Street in Houtzdale with the team of horses, they were so peppy that people leaped out of the way. Tell me a little about that. Did the horses ever run away from you?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, they run away from me different times. And this one time, there was a feed shed where the bank is now.
A feed shed where the bank is now.
Yeah. And the Ricky store and then this little driveway and then the feed shed. And we had oats and corn and stuff in there for delivered to the country for people for the feed the stock. And anyhow, this team of horses, they brought them in. Ike Goss was supposed to be their professional horseman, and Ike called me up and told me to come over. He couldn't handle it, and he said he didn't know anybody who could handle them horses but me. And I said, oh, I'll be over. And I went over, and I was delivering like groceries from Eureka store and feed and everything. And I don't know what happened, but something scared them, and they run up this narrow alley, and the one horse hit the cement sidewalk and it fell down. And then it jumped up, and there was a railroad right down Main Street. And the horse jumped up, and the way that went up there, and the wagon wheel was riding on the edge of the rail.
Of the railroad track.
Yeah, one rail, one wheel. When I get up to the front of in front of the hotel there, St. Cloud, it jumped off of the rail, and there was a car parked there, I remember, and when it jumped off, it just smashed the front of that car. The wheel hit right smack in the middle of it. And the water run out right up there on the road. The horses, we got away over in Franklin. They got to there before we caught them.
But this was the wheel that was running on the railroad track. It was the wheel that was running on the railroad track.
It was the side of the wheel. The wheel, the rail here, you know, and the wheel's hanging on the edge. And then just one wheel, you know. And then whenever it come off of there, it smashed the front end of this. I forget now. I think it was an Oakland car.
Oakland car.
I think it was.
I guess it was black. Most cars were black then,
Yeah,
weren't they?
No, it was dark color, but I don't know whether it was black or not.
Did you get scared about this because of the accident and all?
No.
No? You weren't concerned?
Dewey, do you remember down at T.J. Kelly's store?
Yes.
They called, that was Tom Kelly, right? Josephine's
Tom
father?
Kelly and Josephine worked in the store, his daughter, and they worked hard. The whole family worked.
Uh-huh.
His wife come over and helped, and the Alley-Popper Railroad was right down the middle of the street, and when he'd get a stalk of bananas in, he'd hang them up and take them off and put them in a paper bag when we sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'd throw that old banana stalk on that railroad car going down with coal on it.
Oh.
We wouldn't have to haul it out and pay for that.
Could you tell me a little bit of something about the dozen of Mr. Kelly whenever he would put, let's say you were buying something in the store and you bought a dozen of something. I don't care what it was. What did you wind up with when you went home? Did you have 12 in there or didn't you have 12 in there?
Oh, yes. But he'd said it's 13.
When there was a little bit of, well, say you bought some candy or what have you and it was on the scale.
That
Whenever you bought some things in the store and it was on the scale, did maybe somebody have a little tendency to put a little pressure on the scale to help the weight along a little bit, right? Something like that maybe?
Yeah.
Did you buy some penny candy and things in there? What did they handle in there? I know an old picture that I have showed that they had fish in a barrel and that type of stuff, cigars and so forth. But I would imagine they probably had a soda fountain or something in there.
Yeah, he had a soda fountain, and Coca-Cola was the main drink, and him and Jim Brady was promoting this Coca-Cola, and they put a little lemon in it, and they take this glass of Coca-Cola and the lemon, and boy, that's good. Saying out, trying to get the people to buy that. And Jim Brady lived down the street there, a little ways, where that empty lot is there now. And they had a blacksmith shop there, shoeing horses.
Jim Brady was married to Ann, right?
Who?
Was Ann his wife? Jim Brady, was Ann Mrs. Brady? Was she Ann? Was his wife's name Ann?
Ann.
I don't know
Ann.
for sure. Was her name Ann?
Was his wife's name Ann?
I think it was.
And they had, that was like Gus Stoddard and those guys. They were the sons of Jim, right? You remember Bill Stoddard? This would be Jim's. No, wait, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. I'm sorry, I spoiled that. The Brady family, Mrs. Brady married...
Jim Brady.
Yeah, but the...
And he was a black.
Okay, Dewey, I'm wrong. I'll tell you where I'm at. I'm with Mary Brady, Mary Stoddard. Mary Stoddard. Her mom was Anna Brady, and her daddy was Jim Brady, and that's who you're talking about, right? He was the blacksmith. And at one given time, I believe they lived down there behind where Bob Wagner lives now, behind G Studio down in that area there. Is that about right?
Yeah.
How about I ask a question or two down the garage? Gobranson's garage and Letzler's garage. Seems like you were almost part of the bricks of that building, because I remember you as a kid all the time. And do you remember or recall, do you remember that building? Was it built for Gobranson's and Letzler's, or was that built for someone else? Was the original garage Gobranson's and Letzler's?
The building belonged to
W.O. Gabranson had a garage.
W.O. Gabranson come back from the service, and he built the garage.
Okay, so Mr. Gobranson, Billy, built the garage, and was that all one structure and subdivided, and Letzler's had the other side, or was it just Gobranson's built first? Do you recall? Whose was first, Letzler's or Gobranson's?
Gobranson's. Did they add a piece on for Letzler's, or was that there in the beginning? You had Gobranson's over here and Letzler's over here, and you worked for Bill Gobranson. Then you went over to Letzler's. Did they put Letzler's on later? Was Gobranson's garage here and then they built Letzler's next to it? Or was that all one building?
I don't remember.
That's okay. It's a long time ago.
How about the cars that they sold at Letzler's? I know you used to tell me about the Chevrolets and the Studebakers and what all the cars did you handle at Letzler's? Do you remember some of those? Can you share that with us? What's the first car they ever sold at Letzler's to the best of your knowledge?
Hayes had a garage over there.
Okay, Hayes had a garage, but it's on this side of Centennial Street where the old market is now. That was Hayes's garage at one time.
Right.
But over where Letzler's is, going back whatever year they started, I know you told me over the years that they had a Chevrolet dealership. Did they have a Chevrolet
I didn't
dealership?
understand what he said.
He said, what different cars did you sell down there at the garage? Did you ever sell Chevrolets? You had a Hudson. I remember the
I had
Hudson.
Hudson.
International trucks. You sold international trucks.
Yes.
And what was the first car down there you sold at Letzler's? Now I know you were working for Billy Gabranson, and you said how they used to bring the cars in parts and you'd put them together. Do you want to say how they brought them in on the train? When they brought the pieces in?
They brought them in on a flat car, a railroad car, and they had to install the bodies on them and put them together. And they unloaded them down there back at the station. And there was an old building there, we put them together in there.
And didn't you say that you, excuse me, had to read and then put them together because they weren't assembled when they came?
That's right.
You had to assemble them, and those were Ford cars?
Yeah.
Those were Fords? So you went over to Letzler's and they weren't selling Fords over there. What were they selling?
Make that funny, can't remember.
Well, you'll think of it. You'll think of it. That's okay.
Lots of Chryslers, right? Lots of Chryslers and Plymouths.
Yeah, yeah.
And which was the best Chrysler that you ever drove?
Chrysler.
Yep, which Chrysler do you think was the best one? Was that Chrysler 300 one of the good ones? Or the Chrysler Imperial?
Which car of the Chrysler did you like the best? The Imperial or the 300?
The Imperial.
The Chrysler Imperial.
The Imperial was the best one, the dearest one. And what was the other name of the cars?
300.
The Chrysler 300.
Uh-huh.
What would they cost back then? How much money would they be?
Oh, I imagine around 700.
Not a bad price for a good car. Why don't you tell us about the time you had that tap dancer come from over in Tyrone?
Yeah, we're gonna put an automobile show on.
Speak loud now. Speak loud. Speak to him as loud as you can.
Yeah, we was gonna put a show on, and they just come out with a steel roof on the car, and they said it would never work. It wasn't meant for to have cloth roof, you know. And we had this tap dancer come over from Altoona to dance on the roof to show them that the roof was strong enough that it would be all right. And we got her over here. She got up on the car, and her head touched the roof. She couldn't dance, so we left the air out of the tires on the car and dropped it down so she could dance on the roof.
She could dance on the roof of the car then when I let the air out of the tires. She must have been pretty tall.
Well, no, she wasn't very tall, but it wasn't very tall, very high
The
ceiling.
garage ceiling wasn't very high.
It was in the garage next to the Radisson's garage.
Yes, Letzler's.
Yeah.
It was in Letzler's.
Dewey, do you remember some of the guys that worked in the garage down there? Do you remember some names of some guys? How about George Tubo?
George Tubo is a mechanic for a long time there.
How about Shorty Kokoski?
Yep.
And who else was in there? Was Red Cloven in there at those days?
Red Cloven.
What about Lefty? Lefty Phillips?
Stashko.
Lefty, what?
Lefty Phillips, was it? Lefty Phillips
Yeah, he worked there a little bit too.
and Stashko out here?
Yeah, Stasko. I think Stasko's dead.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He died. No, no. I'm sorry.
Isn't he?
Beg to be for no.
Okay.
His wife died.
Oh, that's...
He's in a home. He's in a home at the present time. He's over in the veterans home in Altoona. Yes, he's still living.
And of course your son, Junior, named after you, he worked in the parts department. He was in charge of the parts and he knew where everything was.
Yeah.
He had his own system and he could tell you up on the third shelf, 2 from the side, and that would be the part they needed.
Junior showed him how.
Yeah, yeah,
He taught him.
yes, okay. And you had John Krapinski work there too, didn't he?
Yes.
John Krapinski? And
I haven't seen John for a long time. He's still living.
He's still living. Who was the old mainstay gal that done all the work in the office? Who was the office
who
girl?
was the secretary? She comes to see you.
Agnes. Yeah.
Last name?
Yeah, Agnes Marshall.
And how many years did she work for you? It was a good while.
25, I think.
25 years she worked for you in the office. And, let's see, Chubby Close,
Yeah.
didn't Chubby Close work for you?
Yes.
And Mr. Morbido, didn't he work?
Johnny Morbido.
Johnny Morbido. And that's quite a few people.
Yeah.
But you were the shop foreman, is that right? Do you remember anything special that happened down at the garage that kind of stays out in your memory?
Well, about that girl going to dance on the roof.
Yes,
We left the air out of the tires.
yes. Anything else?
It's been so long.
It has been a long time. And you were honored down at the show in Houtzdale
Yeah.
for 66 years in the auto industry.
Yeah.
And you're 95 now, and you drove your car till you were 95 years old. You were driving down the street of Houtzdale when you're 95. But they dedicated the event to you for being 66 years in the auto industry. Remember they gave everybody little straw hats and with red and white and blue stripes on it, and they had the display.
Yeah.
Okay. On the railroads?
Yes.
With the railroad ties. Tell me what you did on the railroad.
Put railroad ties in.
You put the railroad ties in. And didn't you work at a meat market, cutting meat?
Yeah, that was Gabranson's.
Branson's. And did you cut down any trees out in the forest for the loggers?
No.
You didn't. Didn't your grandfather cut trees and make a raft to go down the Susquehanna River?
Yes.
Tell us about that. How they waited till the water was up in the cup? They worked in the woods.
Had to wait till the water got high enough that they could get down on a raft. And they put a tin cup out, one of them old time tin cups. And it rained enough to half fill the cup. The river was high enough to go.
And they would tie the logs together and ride down the Susquehanna. They go down to Lock Haven.
Yes, and my dad said it would be splashing up on them, and their pants legs was stiff like stovepipes.
Because it was so cold then.
Yeah.
And their pant legs were full of the water from
Yeah,
the river. And how did they get back then?
Well, they came back as far as Tyrone.
On the train.
Uh,
And then they'd walk from the train. They'd walk from Tyrone to Sanborn.
No. They get Tyrone to Osceola. And they'd walk from Osceola.
To Sanborn. And so they took the trees that were the logs of the raft down to Lock Haven and then sold them. Took the raft apart and sold them, and then took the train back to Osceola and then walked home. And they were a pretty tough bunch, weren't they?
Oh boy, I see. They sure were.
Did you have some questions? It's all red brick, and as I remember, you got it debt-free because Mother would put one pay in the bank and you would live on the next pay, and then she put that pay in the bank and you live on the next pay. So that when you built the house, you didn't have a mortgage for it. The man who built the house, was that Mr. Selinsky?
Mike Swims?
Mike Selinsky?
Yeah.
And how did you get so many things here? You have the inside mailbox, you have the inside laundry chute. Where'd you get all these modern ideas back then?
Just got my own head.
And you had the ironing board that folds up into the wall. Was your idea. How old do you say the house is now? You remember when it was built? I was born here. Well, we're not going to get into that. How long ago was it built? I was born in the bedroom upstairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Junior and Louise were born down by
Down the brick house by the roads.
by the railroad tracks, yes, by Gobranson's. So is the house 50 years old, or is it 60 years old, or was it 1926 or 1918? Well, it's one of those years, isn't it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just be guessing.
But when you came in the house, I remember the steps you told me, you could look straight down because
Yeah.
you wanted to get in the house and it wasn't really finished when you
That's
got
right.
in.
That's right.
And I remember Mother used to, when she'd peel her potatoes, she would throw the peelings out the kitchen window, where you also dumped the ashes from the coal stove. And I remember potatoes that grew outside the window because the eye of the potato had been deposited in the ash pile there. We had potatoes.
Yeah.
And you remember the pear tree outside? We had a pear tree for years, and one year we got one pear. And you and Mother and I sliced it in 3 sections. And that was the most delicious, juiciest pear, and that was the fruit that it gave forever, was that one pear. And what about your father? Didn't he take care of some of these trees out here? Didn't he put some cement in these trees?
Yeah.
What
No, that wasn't my father.
Your father took the branches and grafted them.
Drafted them.
And what did he end up with?
Well, they grew, the grafts grew, and they bared fruit.
So did you have more than one kind of apple on a tree?
No, but there was different people had different apples on one tree.
But when he grafted, did he graft the same
Yes.
thing?
Well, no, they were better. That's the reason he grafted them. They were a better apple. And,
Okay.
he would take a little piece of the tree about like that, and then he would sharpen it on both sides. And then he'd split the limb that he was going to graft it on, and he'd put that split piece right in here so the 2 saps come together. The saps is what I mean, is the skin on the tree.
Okay.
And then he would wrap that around and tie it good and tight. And if a bird would light on that, it would never grow.
Why?
Because
Why?
it moved the thing a little bit. And
Move the grafting.
the 2 grafts didn't come together.
Okay, it had to be perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Dewey, I'm going to finish this by closing the camera down now, but I'm going to make you one promise. In 7 years, that's going to be the year 2000, I'm going to come back and finish this, okay?
He
I'm going
said
to come back and finish this in the year 2000.
he's going to come back later and finish, okay?
Okay, thank you.
We want to thank Mr. Larry Kokoski for coming down and making this video.
That was really nice of you.
We're so appreciative of his efforts with the histories of this community.
This is a picture of Dewey Stott Jr. in uniform, Boy Scout uniform.
He was Boy Scout leader.
And he was a Boy Scout leader and a prized possession here of his pappy, Dewey Sr.
The Boy Scouts used to meet in the basement here.
And the Boy Scouts met here in the basement of the Stott home.
We have a picture here of my father's mother. Her name was Margaret Louisa Stott. With her is one of her children, Caroline, the aunt for whom I was named. My father's mother died at a young age, as well as my mother's mother, so I didn't really know either grandmother, just the grandfathers. Here we have a picture of William Dewey Stott's father, the gentleman who was a teamster and had the white horses and the surrey with the fringe on top. Richard Townsend Stott, resident of Brisbane, PA. We have a picture here that is a beautiful keepsake, a picture of which was taken when my father, Dewey Stott, was 94 years old. Very happy to have this picture. It certainly is precious to me. If you notice, the gold pin I'm wearing was a pin that belonged to my mother. It was a pin she gave to me. So that means we're all in the picture together.